back with a little bit of stride session, Stride with 5. And we have Ruth Fortune with us today. Introduce yourself to the people.
Hi everyone, Ruth Fortune here. I am a Hartford resident, lived here for a while, raising my 3 kids to go to Hartford schools. And it's nice to be out running this morning. And I'm running for Congress as a Democrat here in the 1st District.
What does it mean to you to be running for Congress as a Black woman?
Oh gosh, it's taken on much more meaning during the 1 year I've been running. You know, when I started, I declared my candidacy actually exactly a year ago, early July last year. And since then, we've had the Voting Rights Act be gutted. We've had temporary protected status for Haitians be terminated. That's a status that I had after I was undocumented for a long time. We've seen the wealth gap grow. We now know the president has enriched himself to the tunes of billions while working and, struggling Americans keep falling further behind. So we know we're losing more representation in Congress, so this means even more now than it did then.
What do you do for your mental health while running for a campaign? Sorry.
Gosh, for me, it's family. My husband and I, young kids, my parents also live with us, multi-generational household. Really keeps me grounded. We go to church most Sundays, so really it's family for me.
Or having your parents live with you, how is that dynamic when it's not so common?
It is super common in Haiti though. I grew up with my mother's mother living with us.
Right.
And she was the only grandparent who was alive when I was born. So, Dave could tell you, my husband's here. Apparently I told him I wanted that when we first started dating. So.
What, your parents?
To have my parents, yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew I'd have to help them.
I'm Jamaican myself, so I understand the concept earlier.
Yeah.
You're very what does it mean to be running for Congress?
For me, it's a way to be of service. And at a time when I feel that the people, so I've lived and I know what it's like to be affected by what comes out of DC. It hits us first and it hits us the hardest when you're marginalized. So I think those of us who are closest to that pain, we need a seat at the table. And for me, that's why I'm choosing the place where my voice is least represented and where I can make the biggest difference.
What specific economic development would you prioritize for Hartford? And what metrics should we use to hold you to, whether it be home ownership, jobs, etc.?
We definitely need more affordable housing here in Hartford. And I know we have a lot of buildings that are sitting vacant or just grossly underoccupied. And I think bringing federal dollars to completely gut and redo and convert those into affordable housing units would be great for Hartford. Maybe a few thousand units throughout various parts of Hartford in these underoccupied buildings, which will also then generate more tax revenue for the city of Hartford would be great. We certainly could get the project started. I don't know if we could complete all these constructions within a 2-year period, but I think those need to be affordable housing projects. Something I've been talking a lot about too, less so a project, but more increasing people's quality of life, is raising the federal minimum wage, which interestingly, Murphy and Blumenthal have introduced to $25,000.
Yeah.
The difference for me is that I would want it to go into effect the following year after it's introduced, because that's what people need now, not in 2032. And I would want it tied to inflation. That would help a lot of low-income people who live here and work in Hartford.
What metrics should we hold you to? How will we be able to tell that's work?
So I think affordable housing, that's tangible and real, what's coming up on the market to Hartford, but open up more tax revenue for the city to fund our schools. And it's really more so, we build it, do we stay on schedule and make sure we fill them with the people who are most in need?
Yeah.
And then with respect to the minimum pockets directly, right? That's the easiest way to get more money into people's pockets in a dignified way.
So for the youth in Hartford, what's your plans to increase access to jobs, mentorship, and career opportunities? And how would your approach be different from programs that already exist? It's a little hot out here, so we're in between the walk and run phase because it's almost like 100 out here. There's no cat. Look at my body. So yeah, how would your approach differ? What would be your plans to help the youth in that space?
Gosh, I am someone who benefited from a lot of programs. I think connecting young people to opportunities that they don't have in their homes is critical. So for example, we have Hartford Promise. I think making sure that Hartford Promise could serve even more students, not just the students who spent all 4 years here in a high school. What if they were here for 3 years or 2 years for whatever reason? And maybe have different scholarships for kids who are also going to vocational schools and trade schools, not just kids going to universities. In our schools, some time ago, we used to have more partnerships with trades and other types of employers. I think we need to bring that back to our schools to expose kids to the work that they can have and the people who do that work. Because I think those personal connections really matter. They certainly did for me. And it's making it part of the educational experience and offering young kids, particularly at the middle school and high school level, a lot more extracurricular activities to keep them engaged in school and keep them coming to school and thriving in school.
What's your least favorite part of how the school system operates now? Like, what's one thing you're passionate about? I want to shift this if I have the opportunity to.
Okay, so my favorite thing that I like is also one of the things that poses some challenges, is that we have more options here in Hartford because, Hartford itself has 39 schools. And kids can choose to go out of district, right, to other providers that I shall not name since I am on the board of Hartford Board of Education. And I think that, and this is not unique to Hartford, in the same school building, different kids have different educational experiences. And I think I was oblivious to that because I was the kid who sat in the front, got straight A's. I didn't know that other kids probably weren't getting attention. I knew I was.
Yeah.
Now as a board member and hearing from students and other stakeholders, I realized that when there's scarcity and not enough, whether it's money or whether it's people in the building to provide to the kids everything they need, some kids fall through the cracks.
Right.
And I think it's something that needs both just more monetary resources, but also strategic thinking about how do we meet kids' needs wherever they are, because that is the mandate, right? It's educating every kid.
Every kid, no matter.
That's what public school is.
Yeah.
And until we can do that, we are failing some kids.
Gotcha.
And this is not unique to Hartford.
So, with property value rising, developments increasing, especially like in the north end, in the Hartford area, how do you ensure that we don't get priced out? Like, what does affordable housing even look like for people now? I read something the other day that talked about how high of a percentage of people who aren't from Connecticut own things here. Mm-hmm. And it was a super high, maybe 70+%, which explained why the prices were so high, because people can't relate.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that we don't get priced out?
So I was just at the West Indian Social Club yesterday, and Dr. Fiona Vernal was talking about the long history of mostly Caribbean people here in Hartford, particularly like some of the North End, and the businesses they opened, and those who were able to accumulate any wealth, passing it to their kids. And one of the things that she said that aligns with my understanding as someone who is a trust and estate attorney, worked in wealth management, is that the property values of mostly Black and brown communities tend to be more suppressed and not appreciate as much as property values in their white counterpart neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So ownership, I think, is key, because if property value goes up, you're a renter. All your experience is your rent is going up. If property value is going up and you're an owner and there's at least a plan an owner, then that's how you not just get some wealth, but could grow that wealth.
Yeah.
So I think particularly in our communities where we know it's mostly renters or people who don't have generational wealth, we should be as intentional and deliberate as possible to ensure that those people for the first time get to build wealth and have home ownership. Sort of the reverse of what we used to do then, right? We used to prevent certain people who look like us from ever buying home or buying homes in certain neighborhoods. So the wealth gap that we have is mostly explained through racist policies, right? From laws like slavery, then to Jim Crow and redlining. Those are the reasons someone who could have been comfortable and middle class, if you were Black, if you couldn't buy a home in a neighborhood where your house would appreciate, then you blocked out from participating in that growth. I think we have to be as intentionally anti-racist as our laws used to be racist in this country, if we want to make sure that Black and brown communities have a chance to catch up and thrive and accumulate generational wealth for the first time. I mean, I will tell you, in my line of work, I see that impact in real people who live today because of how I know they got to be where they are, right? Whether it's that the family was able, grandparents, great-grandparents left the family vacation home that they still use in the summer to go on vacation.
Yeah.
Or the home they live in, they inherited from an aunt or a parent or a grandparent, or they got an inheritance that allowed them to buy a house and completely remodel it and grow their own wealth.
Right.
I seldom ever hear that from families of color.
Right.
And that's because their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents never had the opportunity to acquire wealth and be able to help the next generation at the same, to the same extent that white families could. And to be clear, I am all for, if you're someone with means and you can help your child and the next generation build wealth, I'm all for that. I think that's phenomenal. I simply want all of us to be able to have an equal chance to do that if we're willing to work hard and grow our own wealth and pass on a legacy to our children.
So let me ask you this question. How do you feel about the difficulties that you or your family had to experience, or not even just you and your family, that immigrants have to experience? We live in the population is insane with people from Jamaica, Haiti, Trinidad, Guyana, etc., Puerto Rico, the DR. How do you feel about that shift of being able to pass something down when they're like usually the first generation immigrants?
You're a Jamaican, right? So maybe you can relate to this, but I have had well-meaning people use me as a reason why nothing's broken in this country. Look at you, Ruth. You came here at 12. You were undocumented. You figured out, you're a lawyer. You have a middle-class life. How come those people can't figure out? And it's frustrating because
they think you just did that all on your own.
Because they think I did it all on my own, but also because they think the system allows space for everyone to do it. Whereas they're simply, the path that I followed was too narrow for everyone to fit on that path.
Gotcha.
And not only that, now it's actively being dismantled by Trump's really cruel, racist policies, right? Including the school that I went to only admits so many people. Right. So I found a school where the tuition was about $4,000 a year. Not every kid can go there. Right. I also, because I was undocumented, I could not even felt more limited than say some of my relatives who were U.S. citizens and could go to a school and dorm and then realize halfway through that, wait a second, I'm taking on so much debt that I didn't realize when I graduated, say at 17 or 18. And for whatever reason, this is not working out because I have to work and still take on debt and have to consider shift would help more people pursue whatever educational and career opportunities they want. And we created as many of them as possible for all types of people, whether you want to go to college, get an advanced degree, you want to go into a trade, you want to open your own business. If we would invest in people at that stage early on to give them those options, people would land on their feet better, right? And they would reach in so doing. And when people tell me, use me as sort of like a reason to say the system works, I say no, I'm here despite the system, not because of the system. I'm the exception to the rule. And do we really want the rules to only allow space for exceptions? We want the rules to just work, right? We want our policies to just promote growth and promote people thriving and living their full lives.
How do you see mental health fitting into your overall strategy? And also, what investments would you make to make the mental health support more accessible and culturally relevant?
Yeah, so I mean, one barrier to people getting the mental health that they need is not having appropriate health insurance. So if we do have universal health care, or we make sure that we continue to expand access to health care that will allow more people to pursue the health care they need, including the mental health care support that they need. And at the community level, we have amazing organizations here in Connecticut that do a lot of behavioral and mental health, provide behavioral mental health services. I served on the board for CHR, Community Health Resources, for many, many years. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Supporting organizations like that, right? Allowing, because they're already in the communities that they serve. They have great networks, ensuring that we can bring them more federal dollars. And at the state level, we can bring them more state dollars to continue to do the work that they do in the communities that they serve and reach more people within those communities are critical. I think having people like you do that work, be the face of that work, really matters, because there are gaps in people who seek mental health, and I think it's more taboo, right? With men of color, I see, and I think it's probably broad. I think it's Caribbean men and African American men. It's the reality of it. And the more there's people like you who they can see, who can facilitate those spaces, it's more relatable, right? It doesn't feel kind of like I can't even connect with the person I'm trying to engage in this conversation with.
You yourself, have you or are you actively in therapy? Have a therapist ever been to therapy?
I have been to therapy. I will say therapy learned here in the U.S.
Right.
And like my parents probably fully still would not tell you what exactly do you do at therapy. I did at one point also have a therapist who I just met with online. I currently don't, but I have really good friends.
Yeah.
Not that I use them as my therapist, but I have really good friends. Dave and I, like, we talk about everything. So I feel like I have the space in my life to have that. And
Gotcha.
Even, interestingly enough, when I did see an individual therapist, I just felt like she was too agreeable. She's like, why do you keep agreeing with me?
Gotcha.
I would like you to tell me I did something wrong so I can improve.
Gotcha.
And she was great.
Yeah.
But like, it's weird. I don't know if it's the lawyer in me. It was like, no, I want you to be a bit more adversarial in this thing and how I could improve so that the situation is improved. But yeah, so that's actually, it was so enjoyable that I felt like it was too enjoyable.
It was too good. Like, something got to be wrong. Now that makes sense. Yeah. How would you ensure that the Hartford residents have a meaningful, how you doing? Good morning. Have a meaningful voice? Can you think of a time when you had to advocate for Hartford and people who aren't from Hartford or hasn't been in Hartford as long as you saw the opposite and you had to go hard for it? Or a time where someone in Hartford was able to change your perspective about something?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in Hartford for 14 years, which is most of my adult life since I was 24. And I currently serve on the Hartford Board of Education. And I can tell you just this past year, in advocating for more funding for our schools, I think now because so many towns were struggling with their school budgets, it was hard to single out Hartford. But there was this overall sentiment that we give you so much money, Hartford, and you're just wasting it away. You know, inefficiencies and redundancies, and it's top heavy. And the 2 years I've been on the board, we've had so many audits, independent audits by third parties. None of them have found waste, massive waste. The most recent one found about $400,000 in savings, which is not even 1% of our budget, right? Yeah. So the idea that like we just have all this money that we're given and a lot of the kids leave Hartford and we still don't have enough is that we're wasteful. It's not true. So now we've been able to reframe the conversation. I think our CFO, our new superintendent, really led those efforts. People now understand we have a structural deficit.
Right.
We get money, but a third of that leaves us because our kids often choose different schools, and we have to pay for their transportation. We have to pay for their tuitions at the schools that they attend. And that means we have less left to educate the kids who do stay.
Gotcha.
Right? And my kids do go to Hartford Public Schools. So I very much care what we do in our schools and what programs are offered and the quality of the education. So I've seen that not fully shift, but it's been really continuous effort on our part, both at the superintendent's office and board members, to keep saying, we're not saying there's nothing that should change, but we're telling you, if all you think we need to do is spend money better, that does not resolve the issue because of the structural inequities in how we fund education, in the way we allow students to have choice, in a way that penalizes Hartford Public Schools.
But what makes you the right choice?
So I'll be concise. If you believe that our democracy is under attack and the people on the front lines of it are our immigrant brothers and sisters and our trans brothers and sisters, and people in marginalized and vulnerable communities are on the front line of that attack because they're the ones who lose their rights first, and that ultimately affect all of us. And if you believe that the shrinking middle class in this country poses a threat to democracy, because if you can't feed your family, if you feel like your future or your children's future is not bright and will be worse than your parents' lives were, it's hard to think government works and believe in government, right? I am someone who brings experience in both of those spaces. I was undocumented for a decade. So that experience made it so that there's very little that Trump has done that has surprised me. Quite to the contrary, it is my worst fears coming to life. Those are the things I fear that I see happening. And there's still fears that I had that have not happened, and that's even scarier because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that's probably the next phase, and that's the next thing that he might try to do. And then my work professionally is dealing with people's personal financial lives and helping them plan. I see how our tax and various other policies, from Medicaid to so many policies, force some people who even achieve the middle class to be forced out of the middle class, and allows a smaller portion of the population to accumulate more wealth and just protect it for themselves. And it's more than they would ever need. And I think we need people with both sets of experience to address both the attack on democracy, which is more, in my view, the defending, but then we need to play offense as well. And the way we play offense is by pushing for policies that will make a real difference in people's lives. And those policies, they're hard fights. There's no guarantee in any of these fights. We just have to fight, because what other option do we have?
Yeah.
In many ways, I know I chose to run for Congress, but I really don't feel like I had much of a choice in the matter, because the alternative would be wait for this administration to try to denaturalize me as a naturalized American. Right? Or accept that my children might have less rights in this country and become my parents in their adulthood, where they have to flee their country to find a place where they might be accepted.
Right.
So in many ways, I feel like I'm just trying to finish a fight that's brought to my doorstep because it's so personal to me.
Well, for one, I want to thank you for striding with us as the stride sessions. And a very important thing for me is fulfilling my purpose, which is to provide a space for people to share how they feel about things, whether I agree or disagree. But I understand that there's a large population of people who just don't even have an idea what's going on. So being able to provide that space for people to just know what's going on, being in the know. Also, I prefer doing it like this because of the movement.
Yeah.
It unlocks something in your brain. So I like blending tough conversations or informative conversations with a little bit of walking, running, jogging. Yeah. Preferably when it's not 100 degrees. But I want to thank you for definitely doing this. Also, inform them on how to vote, when the election is.
So the election day is Tuesday, August 11th, but we will have voting from August 3rd to August 9th. So if you'll be away on August 11th, you should plan to vote early. And if you can't make any of those days, you can request an absentee ballot. You don't have to give an excuse. You can simply request an absentee ballot and vote by absentee ballot. But I do encourage all of you to show up and vote if you're a registered Democrat, because this is the first time in 28 years that we in the 1st District get to choose which Democrat represents us in Congress. Larson was elected in 1998, started serving in 1999. 13 times he ran, did not face a primary challenger, not because no one tried, but because we have a system in Connecticut that protects incumbents and makes it really, really hard for challengers to get on the ballot. This election will be the first time in Connecticut's history that a sitting member of the House of Representatives faces a primary challenge. It's literally never happened before.
Oh, gotcha.
And I am the first congressional candidate in Connecticut's history to have petitioned my way onto the ballot. So at the convention, where mostly party insiders get to let go onto the ballot, they made an exception for the 2 other candidates, and I did not get that support. So I went around to all the 27 towns, and my volunteers and my team collected thousands of signatures from registered Democrats to get on the ballot. It had never been done before at the congressional level, and the only 2 times someone pulled it off before was U.S. Senator Joe Lieberman, who actually, when Lamont ran against him, and he was already a sitting member of Congress, and Bob Stefanowski, who was a wealthy businessman who poured millions of dollars into his campaign and spent hundreds of thousands to get those signatures in a way that we did not, because we have people who believe in this campaign. And I was out myself too, right? I didn't just delegate the work to people or simply just pay people to it. I participated in it. We did have to get some paid canvassers, but I actively was out, sometimes 14 hours a day, talking to people, getting the signatures to get on the ballot. And that's what I plan to keep doing now, to keep talking with voters and developing more trust and being in the community that I want to serve.
What's your Instagram, your Twitter, your X,
Yeah.
or Facebook, or whatever?
So
it is?
everything for me is Ruth Fortune for Congress. My website is ruthfortuneforcongress.com. My Facebook, my Instagram, and my TikTok are both Ruth Fortune for Congress. You know, we made the choice to not be on Twitter. or X, whatever they're calling it these days. So those are the three.
I respect the boycott, but standing for whatever you stand for.
Yeah. So yes, that's where you could find us. Would love to have you come out, make phone calls with us, door knock with us, be at events in the community with us, just handing out flyers, talking to people, because, you know, all of us, I see everyone who's on the campaign trail with me, who's volunteering, we are all the face of this campaign.
Okay. Do you mind saying anything?
Sure.
All right, so first time was on the Stride session that we have not only the person that I'm interviewing and running with, but also your husband and wife. And we have
Hi, David Reynolds. Hi, everybody.
Here. Anything you want to say about your wife running for Congress?
I wasn't prepared for this, but you know,
we having group family therapy today. Group therapy.
You know, I just wish everybody who's on the outside could see the real person. It's not a fake thing. It's not something we do for Instagram or social media or any of that stuff. This is a real person trying to make some positive change and doing a hell of a job, and I couldn't be more proud of her.
That's what's up, man. All right, so again, thanks. I would say we should run another time when you're not running for anything, but maybe we'll run.
August 11th.
August 11th is when you go out to vote. If you're not able to vote or you won't be here, you can do absentee
ballot.
Absentee ballot. I don't know the language yet. I'm
early.
still learning it. And vote.
Vote early between August 3rd and August 9th. And if you're registered as unaffiliated, which you might not even realize, because some people rarely have primaries, right? So they don't realize. So just double check. If you're not sure you're a registered Democrat, double check to see what you're registered as. Because if you wait until the day of the election and you're not registered as a Democrat, you won't be able to vote.
Yeah, that.
So if you're a registered Republican, you definitely cannot vote in the election. But if you're registered unaffiliated, so you have a U when you check the voter file, you can still change your registration anytime up until August 10th. So you can vote on August 11th.
If you're unregistered, you can do that too.
If you're unregistered, you can still register to vote for the first time, so you can vote on August 11th or early.
So this is funny because when I first walked up, I was telling her like what I'm into. Well, I was telling both of them what I'm into. And she says, you should meet this guy. You should meet this guy. He reminds me, like, you guys work very well together. And what did that guy tell you a couple months ago? He is not into...
Yeah, so I was at an event at the Capitol with like the Black, caucus. And this young guy was in the forum. And you say, well, I'm not into politics. I do therapy with men, and we get to talk about these topics that they rarely get to talk to. And I can just see, like, he was just an authentic guy who cares and is doing work that is meaningful to him. So I come here this morning, I was like, you should meet that guy. Like, young black guy. I am blinking on his name. I should have looked it up before I came here. In my defense, you were not wearing sunglasses and a hat.
I was the guy.